On one of the many planes of the Pentagonal Dominion, Priestess Calinthi trades in information, collecting valuable secrets for her demonic employer. Calinthi has a secret of her own. She's intersex, making her a target for the matriarchal slavers of the Ophidian plane, whose territory she must cross in her search for hidden knowledge. But thanks to her friend Zakuro's illusions, Calinthi presents as a woman, a comfortable, if furtive, existence in a world determined to bring her to heel. But when, instead of a mere secret, the priestess uncovers an incalculably powerful artifact, Calinthi finds herself in a high-stakes negotiations with the same matriarchs who sought to enslave her. On the table, Calinthi's discovery, a charm powerful enough to transform a mortal into a god. Against a secret so deadly it could quell all life on every plane in the Dominion. If Calinthi plays her cards perfectly, she and Zakuro could escape Ophidia wealthier than either of them ever dreamed possible. But if she plays them wrong, she'll learn slavery in her pursuer's hands is a fate far worse than death. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's video is once again another review. Another review of a debut novel. And in fact it is the debut of perhaps one of the most anticipated books I've ever reviewed on this channel. It's one I've actually built some hype up for myself a while back. Namely, Merchants of Knowledge and Magic by Erica McCorkle, better known to the internet as Kira of the Wind. Under her pseudonym, she has done a lot of community building for writers and aspiring authors on Twitter and Instagram. And as such, she is on a whole new level when it comes to the development and discussion of fiction. All that is left to find out is how does the work she does outside of her novel, but still within the writing community, compared to how her novel stacks up. Well, I can tell you this much, at least for now. There are two main characters we're following: Calinthi, a priestess of this setting's mind god, as well as a merchant of knowledge, i.e., someone who gathers and trades with information in exchange for goods and services, and her partner Zakuro, a merchant of magic, someone who can perform some magical services for the right price. These two characters go on a journey that reveals a whole slew of mysteries and secrets that change in many ways the dynamic not just of the world, but also of the various characters within that world. That's all I can say without delving too deep into spoilers, which I generally try to avoid. That being said, what can I say about the quality of this book? Well, if you've been following this author's virtual presence for any length of time, this should come as no surprise to you, but the world building is second to none. All of the realms within the Pentagonal Dominion have their own established characteristics, and are thankfully not just individual, not just single biome places. They all have substantive aspects and well-defined, well-separated characteristics and places that make it very fun to explore. And in fact, this whole book is to some extent built around the idea of discovering not just the places where these characters live, but also what is interesting about the characters themselves, who come from a wide variety of species, each of which has its own proclivities and interests, and have gone on to create societies which shape and mold the world around them in accordance to their own necessities, abilities, and and ecological conditions. I would not be the first to say that this world building is very rich and very vast, and which it definitely is, and it also is very rewarding to explore and to go on this journey of discovery throughout the book. But also, but I will perhaps be the first to note that that it is also, to some extent, grounded in actual scientific principles. The magic system in particular is noteworthy for how it manages to apply scientific principles into the way it is used within the setting, and searching those things out has been quite rewarding for the for the sake of the story. So yeah, great job on that front. The narrative, however, is a bit more of a mixed bag. At least in the beginning, it starts out quite slow, and it is more dedicated to building up its world and creating and presenting itself and its narrative more like an old school adventure story through dialogue and context clues rather than anything else. And I'm actually completely fine with that, and it contributes to that journey of discovery that this book takes you on, that I'm mentioning now for the third time. Each page you turn through answers a few questions and then asks a few others, and constantly encourages you to go further into the book. And yeah, that impulse very much carries the readers throughout the whole story. There's however one problem with the way this approach is used, and it first becomes obvious right around the 2/5 mark of the story, when a whole bunch of plot relevant information is revealed all at once. I would have expected the characters to maybe sit down and process what's going on, what they just found out, and what it means for their story overall. But instead, the plot requires that they go to some other place, and get the action going forward. Which, while I understand the plot economy reasons for why you want to keep this streamlined, this approach very much undercuts both the emotional development of your characters and also the stakes you're actually trying to establish within your book. So, yeah, not a great look. Just between you and me. Granted, this might not all just be due to the plot mechanics. The way the plot is presented could also contribute a bit to that. While I mentioned that there are two main characters, in truth, Calanthe gets the lion's share of the perspective we as an audience are following through, and it's not even close. Zakuro is the best among the rest, so to speak, but even so, Calanthe's perspective, more of the story is presented from Calanthe's perspective than from every other perspective of this book combined. And Zakuro in particular gets shafted because of this narrative approach. Because even though she is in almost as much of the narrative as Calanthe herself, even though a lot of the revelations that the story carries with it directly impact her, she doesn't really get to present her perspective, her insight into the situation as it unfolds, or what it means, and therefore a lot of her input isn't treated as substantially as it should be. It's handled more like flavor text, unfortunately. That being said, thankfully, the other characters do a lot to pick up that slack. All of them are surprising, engaging, active and dynamic characters who manage to make themselves interesting by always presenting a whole array of new and exciting facets about themselves and their story. I would not necessarily say I want to read a spin-off novella of all of these characters, but firstly, even there are lots of characters about whom I could read a spin-off novella. Secondly, even the ones where I can't say that are still very well developed and very well fleshed out, where you could see someone who comes from this background and who has these particular cognitive presets within their head behaving exactly the way the narrative presents them. It's kind of a shame a lot of these characters have to go more in the background because of the aforementioned plot economy, but you know what? I'm still glad they're there, and because they do make the story that much more richer and that much more interesting. Overall, while I would like to say that this debut marks a fascinating new discovery from within the writing community, it unfortunately makes a few too many missteps for me to truly call it outstanding. But what it does well, it does magnificently. My final rating for Merchants of Knowledge and Magic is a 4 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to any part of this video, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My own debut novel, Heir to the Empire: The Next Generation, is available at most major book retailers under a master link in the description down below. Right past my social media, which I also suggest you check out should you feel so inclined. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been The Heir's Lair.